Death by noise.
Through dark veil of space, time.
Yes, I like it.
This is Warp Chatter!
Sweet mother of the abyss!
There's a great deal of work to do.
Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, once again to the Warp Chatter podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to talking about Horus Heresy Legions, the digital card game for the Horus Heresy Warhammer 40,000, Horus Heresy lore, tabletop lore, anything that kind of encompasses, and sometimes we talk about other stuff that just kind of comes up through the course of conversation, but this is a podcast dedicated to the game. It's for players, by players, and we have a couple players joining us today. I'm your host, Scuff D. With me, as always, is the crab co-host, Axel Manning.
Howdy, howdy.
And then joining us today, we have from the Reddit community, the Freezer 700.
Hello, hello.
And number one, JP101.
Heyo.
Hello. All right. Well, we're going to be talking about the recent balance patch that came out, I want to say, on Tuesday or Wednesday. I have to go back and take a look. It's a pretty significant balance patch. It changes a lot about the game, which is, I think, a good thing. So we're going to be talking about that. Initially, I think this was going to be slated for the Death Guard, because we're still working on the Faction Spotlight series. At some point, we'll get through them all, and the Death Guard were next in line, but we have had to keep pushing back the Death Guard with all the Galaxy and Flames patches, which, that's fine. I'm not missing it. Time. Yeah, they'll get their due. I think that's kind of in character, right? Like, they just kind of keep pushing them off, like, whatever, just go march.
We'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Before we get to talking about the patch, let's do some player introductions. So, the Freezer 700, like I said, you're from the Reddit community, but why don't you tell us about yourself?
So, I've been doing Warhammer lore for about 2 years now, and I've been mostly into the video games, even though the video games are not very lore accurate. I get that. But honestly, that's the whole point. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun. I recently got into the Horus Legions card game, mostly because I used to play Magic the Gathering way back in 2013, and I loved all the crazy gimmicky decks, but now it's changed so much it's hard for me to keep up with it, whereas this game's very consistent, very just stable. It doesn't do wacky ridiculous changes like Magic does, so I've just been sticking with this. So far it's been a good time.
All right. So is there a preference you've got with not just Horus Heresy, but I mean 40k in general?
A preference for
like factions?
Oh, factions. It depends. Like, if we're talking lore, oh man, I love the Inquisitor Wars books. Whew. The Emperor's Children are very Slaneshi. Very, very juicy read if you ever decide to get into it. Not some for kids, though.
Yeah.
But
most of 40k isn't.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
first Tyranid.
Most of the time, though, I'm actually with the Marines of Malevolent. That's actually my lodge, too, in the Horus Heresy Legions card game is the Marines of Malevolent. Because they're just really bad people. They're just anti-heroes to the core, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. They have no problem just grabbing a civilian, just holding him to deflect bullets, even though it's not going to hurt his armor. He just doesn't want his paint to maybe get ruined, so he'll just use a civilian, just use them in the bullets. I love that.
Sounds like them.
I know, I love it so much.
I like the Carcharodons because they're just walking blenders.
I'm trying to think of the Carcharodons. Like, that's supposedly some variant of the Raven Guard that got ousted by Korax.
That's what's believed. They're one of those chapters like the what is it called, Blood Ravens, where they keep telling us hints of their initial legion, but never just saying it.
I mean, it's a big change from Raven to Shark.
The same way the Salamanders jumped from Salamander to Kraken.
Well, part of the issue with the Raven Guard, too, is that all their successor chapters are very isolationist and independent. They really don't... They're not like the Ultramarines where they all stick together to their primary legion. They just split.
They did.
I would say the... what are they called? Ultramarines split off really well, too, because they have a lot of different ones. They'll return to Ultramar if needed, but it's not like the Dark Angels where it's like, oh, we're our own chapters. but we still work under the main chapter's hierarchy for some reason.
Yeah.
Which is
The
not,
Raven
you know,
Guard,
a
they're
little
just
suspicious.
but Raven Guard's successors seem to be very independent. Like they really don't care.
They do whatever they want, really.
That's very Raven Guardy. That was the whole kind of, I think, concept behind that was Korax had set them up to, you know, operate independently, and then when they became their own chapters, they took that credo to the same, which makes sense.
They don't even have like a last wall protocol built in either, like the Ultra Imperial Fist, where it's just like, well, fuck the book, everyone get home, we need you.
I mean, everybody should, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Like, that's my preference. I prefer that. Like, the grand recall button.
Yeah.
Well, number one, you've been on the podcast a couple times before, but for those of you who had not heard those episodes, why don't you tell us about yourself?
I've been playing Horus Heresy Legions for about 3 years now. I'm a consistent top 50 player. Got top 10 last season, even though I was going for War Master. Got the rug pulled right under me. I'm a bridesmaid now, so LCFR welcomes me to the group. And I play a lot of events and build a lot of decks for any newcomers who message me from main court.
Is Lucifer still around? I haven't heard from him in so long.
He does. He plays the occasional Lucius on ladder and surprises people, but
I miss him so much.
Surprise, it's LCFR. A wild LCFR appears.
I mean, that's like seeing a shiny Pokemon, right? You just see a wild LCFR in the wilderness, and you get hyped. You think he's dead half the time.
He's still there.
He's still there. Hope he comes back.
All right. Well, so you ended up in top 10. I know you and I think a couple others were like at the line for the top, and then correct me if I'm wrong. The patch didn't take place until the end of the month, right?
Yes, it didn't take place until January.
Okay, so it did
January 5th.
Yeah, so the patch itself didn't actually affect the play. It was just the game itself, or did you have other stuff?
No, nothing affected it. It's just I sort of ran out of time, and the guy who did get War Master just pulled way ahead, and I couldn't catch up.
That's such as the battle sometimes, and it could come down to like literally like 3 hours sometimes in those final days.
Yeah, and it didn't help that the season, what was meta, made a lot of fucking desyncs. So it
made
just
a lot of
everything.
desyncs, and then they added new cards, which just threw out all the other cards, and then a bunch of Shadowkins showed up out of nowhere and
Look at that.
Birdman
made matches harder.
Yeah, it's kind of weird though when it comes to meta builds, because right now it's like it used to be for most of the game. Just going Face Smash, Angron, or Kabanda, or even Sanguinius was the way to go. But now it's like, I don't know, dude. Rogel Dorn with his Sentry Turrets with Bastion on them.
Rogel Dorn?
He's seeing pretty good right now. There's a few others too. But it's just the Bastion thing's really killing me at the moment.
Oh, Stalwart
Who
Defenders.
do you know that? Yeah, yes. Stalwart. Isn't there someone trying to run Dorn right now in High Terra?
Yeah, we see
Wes?
50 with Dorn.
Wow, he's making it work. I still think Camba Diaz is a safer pick with them.
Definitely. He's actually got an ability.
Pollux is fun, though.
I like Pollux.
Camba Diaz.
Yeah.
Has anyone seen Imperial Knights at all? Because Imperial Knights were at the top when they first came out. Now they're just gone.
Hey, Juan, have you seen Imperial Knights up there lately?
Funny you mentioned that, yes.
Really?
He's running them right now.
Perhaps.
I mean, if nobody is running heavy stun, that kind of works. The Knights are still there. They still function. They still do some damage.
The issue, though, is everyone's running heavy stealth.
Yeah.
Heavy stealth, but the problem is, like, the thing with stun is, it was always the problem before. It's just, it only happens in a couple of matchups, Alpha Legion and Mortarion.
Right.
Maybe the occasional Orphan of War, if you even see that, but stun isn't really that relevant, so it's not much of a hard counter.
No.
Yeah, you can still use the
play
weapons.
Mortarion.
You can still use the weapons when you're stunned, too, which is kind of...
No, they nerfed them like 6 months ago.
Jesus Christ, I have not played them in ages.
Yes, yeah, that was a big change to him, which I don't say that it would necessarily drop them off, because there's a couple other cantrip abilities
I think
they lost.
Yeah, I think their cantrip was what killed them, because the stun, it's annoying, but it means that Mortarion and Decima just hard counter them, and everyone else had maybe a turn of no damage.
Yeah, that's a big thing, because, the bulk of their damage it all comes from the Warlord, whether it is weapons or whether it's tactics like, House Maccabeus. Their troops aren't damage dealing, and you're not typically running a bunch of troops to attack unless you're running old like Solar Auxilia Knights, which might become a thing again. I don't know.
Who knows?
I hope it doesn't.
Oh yeah, get that new Auxilia Primus. You guys saw those units? Oh man.
Well, I think
that one-sided shield generator is fairly strong.
Mm-hmm.
More than
Oh yeah, and then you combine it with normal shield generator, and you just make life miserable.
I mean,
well, there's no point in making your tactics more expensive
unless you don't
Well,
have
if
any
you can
be
tactics.
completely one-sided.
What is it called? The 6 energy card, the Targ something formation.
Targata formation.
Tagmata formation.
Could that put in 2 of them, or is it energy too much? Is it a 4
It
and below?
can put in play 2 shield
It's
generators.
6 energy.
I've had it play 3 shield generators.
I've also
against
had
me.
it play multiple shield generators.
I've had to play shield generator, but I want to know if it can put in this new legendary.
No, that's
No.
an Imperial Army.
Imperial Army.
Oh, is
You
she?
can only play with Mechanicum.
I keep calling her a Mechanicum for some reason. I don't know why. I feel like it's just because most of the auto-include legendaries are somehow in the Mechanicum. Except Jubak. I mean, troops.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of Melgator whenever I look at her, okay?
the legendary that the Mechanicum got in this set,
It's also good.
it's good, but it was
Is it-
it didn't
It's
scream
body.
to me.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a 6/6
Yeah.
with shield. That's all she is.
Yeah.
It's a 6/6 for 6, already perfectly statted, and it comes with shield. So if you don't have a good 6 option in your Legion, I mean, he's there, just waiting.
I mean, I guess it's good for Kelbor Hall, so you can just put a bunch of like mechadendrites on it, but I don't know.
Well, Kelbor Hall already had his like fun with Kane and the occasional merits mercs. He doesn't really need this.
But the ability 5 energy to choose a mechanic.
I'll use it in my Scoria.
I'm running it in Scoria right now, so
It working?
it's fun.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
I mean, that's
More Scoria.
It's fun,
People be sleeping on Scoria.
I think he's included in this patch. I mean,
Speaking of Scoria,
Yeah.
didn't he get buffed?
he did.
He did.
I mean, I guess we should get into the patch.
Let's start getting in the meat of it.
Yes, the big stuff. Let's run through the patch itself in components, because it wasn't just one particular thing. I mean, a lot of the factions cards. There's a couple factions that were focused specifically. But then we actually had a wave of neutrals that got changed. So
Something I did not see coming.
yeah, I think none of us did. And at the same time, I feel like the majority of people should enjoy it. We'll find out. So first off, for Sons of Horus, they had 2 cards that there's changed. They had Chariot of the Gods changed, where it no longer just draws a card automatically. It now, if the target dies, draws a card. And then second wave went from cost of 3 to cost of 4. For Sons of Horus, thoughts?
Second wave deserved it, to be honest. I think that'll be contested. Maybe.
Do you see that though in higher competitive? Because I don't play that competitive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second
Okay.
wave?
So
Yeah.
let me explain something to you before Sons of Second Wave was nerfed. The best 3-drop that Sons of Horus had was their 3-drops. And this thing took from your deck, so thinning out your deck, let alone so you wouldn't draw them later, put in play 2 3-drops. So you got 6 energies worth for 3 energy on 3
On
3 sometimes turn 1 if you had counterattack. That card did too much work for them.
It did.
It needed to be up to 4.
And then on
It
top of
needed
that,
to.
if you didn't get your 2 fasts, you got the 3 2s that drew more cards for you.
So you're just getting more cards. And it's not like Sons of Horus aren't looking for more card draw. They love cards in their hand.
Yeah, I think both those changes make sense. I mean, the Chariot of the Gods, initially when I first saw that, I was like, really? This is going to change things, because for the longest time, Chariot of the Gods was your base for any sort of 4 damage X. X happens for 4 energy. But we actually see that in some of these other changes here as well, how they all kind of tie together. So after reading the whole patch of it, I think it makes a lot more sense. And I'll be honest, and I'll probably talk about this a little bit more after the fact, I feel like this is just wave 1. I think we might see another wave following suit for other factions that are not yet included in this patch here.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's definitely possible.
yeah, I don't think either of these are bad things. Sons of Horus are still going to continue to operate just fine.
Oh,
I just
easily.
enjoy that they took away some of their burn and gave them like supposedly more control if they want to keep up the draw.
Mm-hmm.
Because now Chariot's a control tool, whereas before it was just drop and burn, draw, and then more stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's really no downside to playing either of those cards. Like,
Right.
now if I'm not getting a kill, I'm not refunding it, so I'm fine with that.
Though
I'll probably still use it.
I am upset that they didn't nerf Muster. That card, I still feel, needs to maybe cost 8, so that way it conflicts with Vengeful Spirit. Because right now, it costing 7 is
You play it before Vengeful on curve, and you're good.
And then you deal 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 plus Vengeful.
Well,
Ideally, maybe they kill 2, so 10 plus Vengeful.
So, question on that though, with it, I mean, because when Mustard came out, it was not Mustard. Muster came out definitely. I mean, and it still is what you said. I mean, throwing down 6 2-1s out there, that's at least 12 damage, not counting anything else that you might throw on them. But we didn't have the Raven Guard like sentenced all stuff going on. Now I know that's just one faction in particular, but that's a faction that's kind of gotten a little bit stronger since they've gotten their new cards. They've got a speeder with a cleave 3. They've got several cards that sentence everything, and not to mention actual deal damage. Do you see that still being a problem, at least in the Raven Guard deck, or does that kind of
not against Raven Guard
Right.
because you can crack the drop pod and hide, unless of course they have anti-stealth. But the problem is, what about the people who aren't Raven Guard?
Right.
Who didn't just get new.
No, that's true. They can't just say everybody just play Raven Guard. Like that's not a solution. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it's looking like right now.
If I had to name off solutions for every faction, I think some factions simply do not have a solution for that. Some do. Some have Rule of Fear. Some have Stealth. Some have Precog on demand, or as a one and hold it for that type of play. Others can kind of bounce or reduce attack or give can't attack. You could have traps and you could stun. But that's not, like I said, that's not all encompassing. And that certainly is not a position that you want to be in, especially if you manage to minimize it and then your opponent still follows it up with, a Vengeful Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, leave 2 alive and they play Frontal Assault, and that's still 15 damage.
That's still a lot. That's right. Well,
Oh man, this is scary meta.
Emperor's Children kind of tying in back to what has happened with the Sons of Horus. Emperor's Children got diversionary tactics changed to now it stuns an enemy, and instead of drawing a card with perfection deal 1 damage to it. Longinus,
that was a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about diversionary tactics.
So,
Yeah.
like, my problem with diversionary tactics before is it was a cantrip, and cantrips just improve the consistency of a deck. You stun a unit for 1 energy, and draw a card, Sons of Horus have to pay 2 energy for that. It's just, I felt it was too good with it drawing a card. This 1 damage might be a little weird, but diversionary tactics doing something on perfection is just already icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It just seems like overall the entire patch just added a lot of trickling damage to just 1 damage. I mean, we could look at the Solar Auxilia new unit, the Primus, where he does 1 damage for every Solar Auxiliary unit you have. Which, I mean, you could probably do now Raven Guard Solar Auxiliary deck now. Just put Sense on a guy and just trigger that little dots.
I'd like to see it happen. I feel like Solar Auxiliary Knights may make a return, though. That's what I'm worried about. I don't want to run into that again.
What else was changed for Emperor's Children?
We had Longinus, which had its description. It no longer deals 3 damage, and if target dies, draw a card. Now it's deal 4 damage. Perfection, draw a card.
A flat buff?
So, a new Chariot of the Gods.
Yep, and then Hold at All Costs had its change from 4 to 5. So a little nerf there.
So they killed Longinus, not Longinus. They changed Chariot of the God and then just gave Emperor Children Chariot of the God.
It's
It's amazing.
Version. I mean, yeah,
It works with perfection, so at least Fulgrim will lower his reckoning.
Well, and I think
Well,
that's one thing with diversionary tactics too, with it being a perfection. Both of those now work with Fulgrim's Reckoning. You also have Marcerian, which is another stun, so that kind of ties with diversionary tactics. I mean, I think these all work. All these changes kind of work to some degree, but they like I said, like tying in with the other changes we see here, you kind of see some sort of consistency with cards that are either drawing or used to draw. It kind of getting that reduced or making it a little bit more conditional. or anything that is working with energy, manipulation, reduction, refilling, kind of having that mitigated. So hold at all costs literally is basically just draw 3 perfection. It's free. It's like a free draw 3. But if it's not, then it's just draw 3 for 5. So
that's always been the problem with it after they buffed it. It's 3 card draw for free.
Yeah.
That's
it. Which is not
bad. A little later.
Which is not bad, but it is definitely not something that you could play earlier. It's definitely not something that's going to give you 10 energy to dump 3 cards. Now, like, you might be able to dump 1 or 2 if you've got tactical brilliance or something like that. But as we see with some neutrals, like drilling sight and stuff, I mean, those factor into sometimes some combos that were used here. So for the World Eaters, Draeger had his ability changed. This is a change that kind of his ability was before give +1/+1 to all friendly World Eaters Astartes, or all World Eaters Astartes. Now it gives +1/+1 to all World Eaters troops, and I kind of understand the idea behind that because a lot of the World Eaters troops that are utility that are often used are vehicles. But I feel like this could have just been changed to a 1 energy and kept it as it was, because there were some decent Astartes that he could kind of use and then make it a relatively usable ability. This just makes your land speeders, which are already going to be used anyways, nasty.
Yeah.
So, like, fear with
Also,
him
the crass spikes.
that he could buff the speeders, make them 5/3s that can face bash and they're still alive. But really, when he was only buffing Astartes, he was way too weak. The only Astartes they run are Wraith and Rond, at least up here on Terra.
Well, there's twofold there. Number 1, that's all that people run, and then number 2, he had an extra card. So if he would have kept his extra card, had a 1 energy buff to World Eater troops, the Io Care, that's actually a really good troop if you get it set up and get him buffed out really well. Like it single-handedly can answer turret spam decks. That new epic, the new rare that has like gains a mark of chaos, that's really good too, especially if you're buffing its health and its attack. The downside is, if now I just have a warlord who's buffing vehicles again, why should I even consider playing other Astartes? Even though there are some decent options out there.
It's just making the playstyle more linear. You're gonna know what to expect from almost every World Leaders deck now.
Yeah.
You can also do a few other things that I think people do forget. World Eaters do have, like the Butcher's Nails. I actually use that a lot. I like it.
I want to, but I
Sweeping
can't
advance.
find room anywhere for it.
I every time I look at it, I was like, I think about it, and then like, why? Like, I'll either play the Mark of Chaos from some other way, or I'll use Sweep in Advance. One card that I do use that I actually enjoy specifically for like Wraith and for my the old Draeger deck that I had, but is that new 1 energy tactic where like you damage a troop and then they gain +2 attack.
Charge forward.
Yeah, charge forward. And that's really nice on like Brond or Wraith, or even like a troop that's got like a rage ability like not Lork. Yeah, is it Lork? The 3/5 unstoppable?
I can't remember its name.
Yeah, Lork Squad. Yeah,
Lork Squad with Shabrandar. Like, it's just a nice little thing. Like, it's not necessary in every game, but it's kind of fun to play it and combo it in a game where that's my intention. But if you had to choose between that and Hit and Run, or Strike and Fade, I should say, Strike and Fade, I think you're likely going to go Strike and Fade.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's just one of those things.
And he lost his extra card. So on top of that, like,
I can't believe they did that to him, actually.
They just already took away his extra card when they introduced him, and that was... I don't know why they keep doing it to the World Leaders. Erlen, Digger.
I can see why they're doing it to the World Leaders. The downside is if you want to make a play style that's unique, then give them something. Like, this is... I just don't think you're going to see... You're already not seeing Draeger. I don't think this is really going to help you see Draeger anymore.
You're going to see even less of Draeger.
Yeah.
The issue too I have with a lot of their troops is that they're just so Like, they're just so weak. So you can have a troop who does like 9 attack, which is great, but he's only got 3 HP. It's like, oh man, that's not good. So he's just gonna punch really, really hard, and then he's dead. It's like,
if he even gets it.
If he gets there,
He's
yeah.
probably
Exactly.
gonna-
Exactly, yeah, that too. Does he even get hit? Is he just going to get hit for 1 damage by Raven Guard and then shoot his ally, and his ally shoots him back? Who knows? It's just really bad.
Yeah.
As I said, it's sad that the Demon deck, the Runestorm, has a better rage abilities than the World Eaters who originated the rage abilities. It's like, what?
Yeah, for
I mean, look
so
at Sacrifice.
99% of the time, the rage ability in the World Eaters is a penalty, in addition to Berserk.
Yeah. I know what they're thinking half the time, to be completely honest, but, you know, they try.
They try.
Every go. They try.
You know, I mean, this doesn't make me do anything different for Draeger.
I mean,
World Eaters.
I like the idea of Draeger having cleave naturally. That's very interesting, especially against duplicitous Caliban Jaegers.
Yeah.
But all in all, I don't see it too useful unless you're doing some sort of gimmicky World Eater troop deck,
If
which
you
is
can get Gorefather on him and he gets cleave 3, it is really fun.
It's very
happen
impressive.
Yeah. Because you're like, what is that? Doesn't matter. Is it next to your Warlord? It has less attack than your Warlord? I'll hit that and still hit your Warlord for 3. It's pretty cool, but you don't see enough of it. And it's at 6 energy, like, for the World Eaters, even for a Warlord that doesn't have to attack. You don't feel like you really want to be in that position where you're giving up that turn to play it unless you know it's the right matchup for it. But it is fun. It is fun to see.
I think what they need to do is kind of change that one card, Gladiator Group 27, and they need to change it because I don't see that enough.
Is that the one that gives them
They-
drop pod?
They need to change a lot of World Eater cards to make them viable as a Astartes force.
Like, just as like a beginning change, I think changing Gladiator Group 27 from a 1 energy to like maybe 8 energy or 9 energy and making it where it automatically plays 3 troops on the battlefield with drop pod, that would be decent.
The
That'd be
issue
like
is
Emperor's Wrath.
Yeah, that's
Exactly,
the issue
yes.
is then we just get another Emperor's Wrath, which it's like what is it? What's it called? Desperate Defense, where it's just another card. I like when cards are different. I feel like its change needs to be something more than that. It needs to actually make playing Astartes worthwhile. But I don't know how they could do it.
I think for the World Eaters, there's just so many pieces that are involved there. And I've said it before, like, if their speeders were a conditional fast, you would then be able to make a lot more changes. But the problem is you still have warlords like Karn and Angron who you have to change around. And I think at this point in the stage of the game, Angron is almost fine as he is if you were to make the troops actually like somewhat comparable to his damage options. Because the mono warlord playstyle at the moment is not really beneficial. It's not a good playstyle to really rely on. And then you got Karn, who's just, all right, well, you know, games are fast, and that's just the way they are. And if you were to change those 2 warlords, and you were to change the speeders to be a conditional fast, then I think you could make a lot more changes without feeling like you're getting the same deck. People could still play them, but they wouldn't quite play the same. And that's really what you want to see.
Well, a lot of people do complain about Karn, mostly new players.
No, we complain about Karn.
Everybody complains about Karn.
I can't find a single person who doesn't complain about Karn. I accidentally convinced our boy Dornstash to return to the game, and his first 10 games were all Karn.
You know,
I felt so bad.
That's what you asked him to return to the game at the start of a season, which is the worst time. It's like, give it a week. And then
in my defense, I didn't even try to ask him. I told him your Salamander Warlord got a buff that you thought was neat looking. And he went, all right, maybe I'll try again. And then he got himself bent over backwards by Karn and Raven Guard.
Well, speaking of the Salamanders, their Warlord Namus Right-Hand did get a buff. Which
he's not useless anymore.
He's not. It was. This is the new Warlord. He still has Survivor 5, but he no longer is like a pay 2 energy, draw a card, and if it's a teaching, he gets +1/+line. He still gets the draw card ability, but now he just automatically gets the +1/0 and frontline when he plays a teaching, and that is really cool for a lot of reasons.
Well, for one, it stacks, so you can go up to multiple attacks.
Yep.
And for 2, now it's no longer optional, so you can accidentally give yourself frontline when you resilience something back. not meaning
that you don't want to, right?
So,
And there's pros to playing resilience and then protecting that resilience troop from like a flank. But yeah,
There
when you're
is,
giving yourself
unless you're
front
searching
line,
for a front line
Right.
for resilience.
Yeah.
right?
You could play a front line and then watch slowly as you realize that the lethal can now hit you.
Yeah, so there is
Yeah.
there's some upsides and some
Yeah.
downsides, but I think overall it makes it actually like feel like you have more control, and more importantly, like he didn't change his initiative, which I feel like is a missed opportunity there, because low initiative for a draw card ability is like,
But he has a counterattack.
The best counterattack. Heal onto your entire board.
it's so bad. It's
I
it wouldn't. Be
I
bad
played
if
on
you have
curve out of
if
spite.
you have a full board, but usually you don't.
No.
I played on curve out of spite. Okay.
Just like the good old days when the Marquezines used to give your unit invisibility and you accidentally gave your frontline dude invisibility.
That
Yep.
was
The good old days.
Done that multiple times.
Yeah, the very first time I had that experience was like way back when it was an event, and it was Death Guard versus something else, and I was like, oh sweet, I've got this awesome wall of bodies. Let me give it a mark of chaos.
No.
And my wall of bodies became invisible, and I ended the game with like a 0.35 wall of bodies that was doing nothing for me.
That's why you wait for him to accidentally play Stealth Hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was hoping it was like
What'll
something.
happen?
I was like, can I cancel that? I can't do anything. Oh man.
Yeah,
So
those
that's
guitar
then I learned.
protector
Then I
guy.
learned, and I was like,
Stealth.
for the longest
from
time, I
Death
always
Notice.
hoped like Mark of Siege. Come on, Mark of Siege.
Gotta pray.
Now it's Raitan accidentally give himself front line.
He can accidentally give himself frontline, although he could heal 8, and then have a +2 attack. So I mean, there's benefits there.
Yes.
I like it. I mean,
Not a
overall,
lot,
because
there are some.
I played him and I didn't use his ability but the first turn of the game to draw a card, and then he was nothing. Like he was a blank warlord. It was just terrible. And this feels more like he can protect when I want him to, and or just gain some additional punch if I'm
Protect,
playing a
he
card that I
attack.
might already play.
Yeah.
Now Iron
Overall, I
Warriors.
think it was a good change.
Yeah, speaking of frontline, Iron Warriors have got a couple changes to Kroger. His damage on
Kroger's
his
is nice.
Yeah, his damage went from a 2 to randoms to 3 when you trigger his siege ability, which I think is a good upside. It's kind of like 6 damage for a siege, but it's 3 and 3. And then Forex, we went back from having him put out bunkers to now he puts in play 2 barricades for 2. And then
That is interesting.
and then his breaker cost was lowered from 4 to 2, which was already a really good combo card. I think the changes for Forex are huge. Kroger's a good change too, though.
Yeah, my issue with this is barricades are still not an Iron Warrior card. For some reason.
Yeah, they
So
won't-
they
it's
don't
not
gain
going
Cards
to
that
work
make
with
them
his.
other than Iron Warrior cards.
Yeah, only Iron.
Yeah,
Well, they're just supposed to be tokens, which is fine.
Yeah, well, that's the thing,
but
though.
no other things make these tokens other than Iron Warrior stuff.
Like, I would be completely fine with this if there was an Imperial Army card that produced them.
But there isn't.
I don't think there's a single.
no, and we
one.
didn't
No,
get one
only
in this,
Iron
in
Warriors
this,
make barricades.
in the expansion that I was thinking like maybe we'll get one that would. Nope. So maybe they could change that. And maybe they could change it so that it does. I don't think it would hurt at all. 2 barricades is still canceled by 1 Vorax, but if they had 2 attack, still canceled by 1 Vorax. But if they have 3 attack.
Well, they
So it
killed
mattered,
the Vorax.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the 2 without
the 2
the pump
attack.
the Vorax
Yeah.
would still be on the table. So there is a slight upside. I think the biggest change. I mean, it's cool to put in two front lines, which is great. But the biggest thing for me is the breaker being lowered from 4 to 2 because that's a lot.
Breaker is strong, yeah.
Like late game, you're like, I'll load 3 siege abilities and I'll use all 3 siege abilities for 2 energy because most of those siege abilities I'm going to use are like 0 or 1 energy.
They also put in that new card too, Siege Mastery. I haven't seen it yet, but I
It's
have
good,
noticed it.
It'd be a lot better if Logos affected it. Siege Master?
Oh, Siege Master.
Yeah.
No, it's the
That's
8
it.
energy. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I like
It
that.
is, because it makes your troop being free is what makes it good. Because if
Yeah.
it was just put in play bunkers, we already got that.
Well,
No.
Not bunkers, barricades, but we already got that.
No, when you put down a Latrathus right behind 2 barricades, that's pretty nice.
For 2 energy less.
Yeah. Yep. It's worth it.
Like, that's strong. That's strong.
So do you think the new Forex ability it's good for Forks to still go the bitter end, where he puts in play 2 barricades
I don't
still,
know if
but
he
this
needs
time
that
he draws a
card.
card.
That's a good question. Like, is that a card that should even be in his deck at that point? Or
He would if Logos could affect it. Ah!
Yeah.
I'm angry.
I would rather, personally, I would rather put other stuff in than the bitter end. I think the bitter end worked well for like Perturabo at some points, sometimes depending like if you need like a little frontline buffer. But for Forex, who could make frontline, and even when they changed him to making barricades, like at that point, the changes to Olympian Recruit and to Endymion and with the Breaker, I don't think he needs it. That's just my take on it. I don't think he needs the bitter end.
Yeah. Not anymore. But one of these days we'll get Logos, well, not Logos edited, we'll get a barricade put into the Iron Warrior card pool. Because it doesn't make sense to be there. It's like Chaos Spawn being in the Word Bearer card pool.
Well,
Yeah, they produce it,
there's
but
some
Chaos
other ones
Spawn
out
is a Chaos neutral.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I guess they didn't want to put Chaos Spawn and then Little Chaos Spawn in the same card pool when you did the Show All command.
Yeah, like which one do I trust?
I mean,
Who's
I'm
the
still
real
waiting
one?
I'm still waiting for a Zinch Demon for the Runestorm deck.
Well, Runestorm won't get it because Zinch isn't Runestorm. He may get his own edition somewhere else.
We can only hope.
We can only hope that he's. I don't think he'd be a new faction, but he might be an add-on onto the neutrals.
Well, that would be something if, or anti-neutrals, or if Runestorm did get new cards and they got a bunch of Zinch reinforcements, that would be sweet.
It would. The thing though is Runestorm, like as a group, aren't Zinch. So
Zinch
it's weird.
just specifically sat out of that one. I know.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Runestorm, I think Blood Angels got changed too, no?
They did. Well,
Did
they got a change. It wasn't a huge, but the counterattack, the two
I like it.
units no longer go side by side. They now go on each side of the Warlord. That's really great for Miros.
If you have no troops in play.
Mm-hmm. Right. If you got
Otherwise,
troops
they
in play,
just
then
play
they're
as
going to go
usual.
on one side.
Well, that just makes Drieger better.
Yeah.
True, but I mean, this really isn't much of a change. It might stop Angel's Tears from dealing additional 3, or like Frivious Command from drawing an extra card. But really, in the case of Raldoron, it doesn't really matter.
No, Rolleron's just going to kill one anyways.
My Sanguinius deck doesn't mind feeding his blade. So
there's that too.
That's
There's
true.
that.
It does do something for Sanguinius. It does do something for Miros.
But then the thing is, if they're both on one side anyways, you just attack with the closest, and then the next one you get the exact same effect. So I'm looking at this like this happened. I guess no one will care.
Yeah,
I don't think they do.
I don't think it's. I just think in terms of consistency, I could see why they did it, because also you've got like First Wave, and First Wave generates 3, 2 on one side and 1 on the other. So what's the order? And I think I asked this question a while back. Was like, what's the order? How do we determine? Does it go 1, 1, 1? 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1? Like, this way at least it kind of spells it out. Like, this way you know. Like, if there's no troops, you're going to get 2 on one side, or you're going to get 1 on each side. But if you get troops, you're going to get 2 on one side of it. The big change, I would say one of the biggest changes for the patch was the White Scars cards getting hit. We had Ebb and Flow for Kinza, which had its cost lowered to 2, but
Which is good.
no longer
reduces, no, it's not.
It no longer reduces the cost of the cards that you're returning to your hand. It just returns all friendly troops to your hand. So you can play it a little bit sooner, but you're not going to get that cost reduction and be able to play those cards in the same turn if you played them that turn. So I think that's a big change.
I'm so happy he died.
That's what the card always needed to be, the setup card. It's just with the 2-1 bikes that they added.
Yeah, once they add those 2-1 bikes, as well as the streak making things cheaper and increasing their attack, big difference. Kumbli Bike's talking about streak. Yeah, got its changed description to now if it's streak, instead of it going to your hand, you create a copy of it in your deck and you draw a card, which is a suggestion I made I feel like that's really was obvious to see. I think we had seen something like that when we saw original Octo and et cetera, et cetera. Like, this just seems like a very easy fix. And Chagoras had its cost reduction instead of 2, and now lowers its cost by 1, which also goes in hand with other cost reduction cards that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But overall, I think this was the patch so many people in the community were asking for.
Begging for, even in some cases.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. The all chat was literally clustered with it, where people were just crying, "I'm getting cummed on by the con." It's like, yeah, I could see why. He just fills the board with 3/3 bikes. Like, you stand no chance.
Well, the con is the least of your fears.
No,
No, we're talking about
Mongolian bike.
Yeah, the event con.
Well,
Yeah.
not even the event con. It's a Mongolian bike man who pissed me off the most. Fucking Quinza. Like, if I don't rush him down by, what was the energy he needed for lethal
7.
again? 7? I always forgot if it was 6 or 7 because I always died. Just boom, you lose the match. You get to watch him play solitaire. You can go call up your buds, see how you're doing, look back at your screen and see you're a corpse. Like, that's your choices.
Yep. Well, and he also used several cards that are, not just included here in the white cards patch, but are included in the neutral cards patch to really double down on the lethal range, right?
Yeah.
We'll get to those, but yeah, I think this was huge. This was not just a finally responding to, the imbalance in the community, but also making these still playable, but not at a level where you feel like, well, what's the point?
What's the point in trying?
Yeah, like
What he did.
if you're playing troops, as soon as they play a copy of Kumbla, you're like, well, I guess I won't be keeping anything on the board the longer the game goes. But now there's a potential that he's got to draw that back up into his hand. Like, he might not draw it right away. So there's that. Chigoris, I think that cost reduction was big, especially for combo setups, not just for Kinzas, but for other stuff too. So overall, I'd say that's really good changes.
Yeah, the Kandhali Scouts got really popular in all White Scar decks the moment they introduced that streaks.
Yeah.
I really didn't see the Kandhali at all. Yeah.
Well, before they had no use. They didn't need to exist.
Exactly. It just did 1 damage and that was it.
Yep.
Well, it had a return ability, but
no, they're
no
a very useful setup. That is like, all right, streak go.
Yep. Now they're actually a threat. I don't like it.
Now, changes that I'm not quite sure how I feel about. The Word Bearers, Argyle Tal has
I still don't know how I feel about it.
To 2 instead of 1, and it does 2 damage instead of 1. So it's pay 2 to deal 2 if target dies, act again. Right?
That's fine.
It's a change, not really a buff or a nerf.
It's fine. That's the issue with it. It doesn't help him.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Ron will always be superior.
He is just slightly different, which, I want to see Argyle Tal, like, meta. Not too meta, because of course. But I want to see him, like, usable without shooting myself in the foot.
Yeah.
Because, I played him during a slower meta, so I was actually able to get, like, I don't know, I think it was a 60% win rate out of the, 900 matches I played. Which isn't bad. But if I tried that now, I don't think I would go above 20%, to be completely honest.
Well, to transform into Rom, it's 15 energy and reduces 2 every time Argyle Tal kills a unit.
Yeah, but the issue is surviving long enough to play it. He's a 30 HP that's slow.
And the game on top of that, where when he was introduced, we didn't have Duplicitous. A single hand, like the Defenders of Caliban shut Argyle Tal down. Like, he becomes...
They shot a lot down.
Well, yeah, but he just is like, I was going to do something against this deck, and now I can't do anything. Like, he can still do 2 damage, I guess, against the enemy Warlord, but...
He's not doing much more. Yeah. Like, his ping was useful. Like, it being 1 energy was nice, because I could at least pop something, and I'm only slightly behind on curve. Mm-hmm. But now it being 2 energy minimum, it's like,
yeah,
I guess.
I don't know how I feel about it. I haven't played with him enough. I don't think the Word Bearers cards really did anything for Argyle Tal builds, so
they didn't do anything for any of them, if I'm being completely honest. Like, the best Word Bearer cards are the new Chaos Neutrals we got, because some of them are just straight up Word Bearer cultists.
That's true.
I think the sad thing too is that even Word Bearer players didn't even realize they changed to Argyle Tal because they only play him just so they could play Rom.
Yeah.
Well, those aren't Word Bearer players; those are Chaos players with extra steps. And also, most people don't even know this patch happened because they released the update. A couple hours later, they added this into the patch notes, but it was updated with it.
Yeah, they changed it without having it in the patch notes. I didn't notice it at first, but someone pointed it out, and then I was like, yeah, they did change it. Then same with Drill Sight.
Yeah, there's a couple things probably like, it doesn't do anything. I'm like, no, it does. It's there. Like, maybe that's just because I caught it. I caught their notes after they had made the revision.
Yeah, same.
But we get into the heart of the patch, I would say. We talk about the neutrals here.
Baby.
I'm going to run through this whole list because they all tie together.
Okay.
So the Imperial Army, Lord Malkiel, his stats are changed from 1-4 to 1-3. Abandoned supplies
That's fine.
lowers the cost now from, instead of 2 reduction, it's now 1 reduction. The same thing goes for supply lines. The same thing goes for Imperial Capital. The same thing goes for not drilling site, War Room. Lactitio Divinatus had its cost increased from 1 to 2. Terraforming had its description completely changed to choose an Imperial Army structure and put 2 copies of it in your hand. And then little extra things on here, which this ties into it as well. Drilling site, huge change. Its description was changed to gain 1 energy this turn. Command Bridge had its cost increased to 2. Astral Incursion had its cost increased to 6, as well as the reduction cost lowered to 4. And then Scoria, the Warlord, had his health increased to 5, and then his special little Xanathite Abiant now does 5 damages instead of 4, so 5 pings instead of 4 pings for 1. The bulk of this patch, now I'll just kind of sum up the neutrals as well as the other stuff we saw here, was really tutors, or I would say cantrips, but I would also say talking about energy reduction. I felt like this whole thing was aimed at adjusting the entire pace of the game. These cards can still be played. Oh yeah,
absolutely.
But the impact that they will make is no longer as significant. I think Drilling Site is definitely one of the biggest ones because that was like a free 2 energy, and you're like, hey, I'll combo it, and I also happen to play, abandoned supplies or supply lines for this vehicle that I'm now playing Drilling Site and gain 2 extra. Like, you could just unload your hand at a higher turn and do amazing things, and you can still do that, but the setup is not the same. The setup is actually going to require other cards, or it's going to require stuff on the board. I think it's a big change to pace, and I think it's something, honestly, that the community has asked for a long time, and the game just always felt like it was always getting faster and faster. And this feels like this is the first. Again, I kind of mentioned, I feel like I think we're going to see another patch. I think we're going to see more of this in the next patch whenever we get that, where I feel like this is like a step to be like, okay, let's bring it back some. Let's bring the speed of the game back some, and let's let the cards actually get played.
Yeah, because it used to be a lot of matches would end by the time you hit 5 energy. By the time that turn hit, the match was pretty much already determined who was over, who was dead. Now, by increasing the cost of all these cards, it's like, oof. You have to really make strategic decisions how you're placing them.
The problem always was abandoned supplies into a 3-drop, or well, rather a 5-drop that becomes now a 3-drop, and it comes out 2 turns early.
Mm-hmm.
Just anything coming out 2 turns early, unexpected. Captain Vargas on turn 2. It's just the combos from that turn into the next turn with very little setup is just, you're playing this card, you get rewarded for it. 3 energy supply lines into 4 energy Lord. Abandoned supplies into any 5-drop. Even Servo Alarm makes the game go so much longer.
Mm-hmm.
It made it too consistent and too fast. That's the problem.
Yeah, and on top of that, not all of these cards, but many of these cards felt like at least one of them is in your deck. Supply lines, abandoned supplies, Lactitio, Drilling Site, maybe War Room, Command Bridge for sure. Some of these are still going to be in your decks, but not all of them, and not on the same level.
No, the nerfed Command Bridge, I don't know if you brought that up. Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the increase of its cost, it's a setup card now more than just a 1 energy tutor, which is good. But I don't feel like it's going to reduce its effectiveness. There's still reason to run it.
I think Command Bridge is still a very useful card. Lactitio, 2 to draw 2 and give your opponent a draw 1.
And with the downside, it's not really worth it anymore, I don't think, unless you're Alpha Elite.
Right, if you have a draw-centric deck, or you have a way to punish your opponent for drawing cards, or you're not afraid to let your opponent draw cards, there's something to it. But the big thing of it having also cost 2 is now it's harder for you to play 2 Lactitios and 2 Void Engagements and 2 Abandoned Supplies all in the same turn. You can, but you're not going to be able to play extra cards on top of that.
It sounds more like a buff, but also hindrance to the Emperor's Children leader, Saul Tarvitz. because he could just reduce it back to 1. And that way, it's actually viable.
Well, yes, but Saul. This is kind of a big nerf to Saul as well, because now he can't just supply lines into a big vehicle that he drops even sooner than that after turn 1.
Yeah.
So these nerfs really slow down the pace of the game, but they don't slow it down too much for the decks that we're already running.
One thing, though,
right now they've just reduced the viability of some decks, and didn't really affect some others, except for Command Bridge, of course.
So one thing that's interesting is the terraforming change. I think that's just weird. An Imperial Army structure, that's interesting.
Yeah,
it's not even played. It just puts 2 copies in your
right.
hand.
I've seen a couple games where people have like memed it with like
double
Pharaohs and stuff like that. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if it makes sense. I mean, the card might have a little bit more creative use. I guess maybe because terraforming was already so similar to Imperial Capital. That it was like, why play one or the other? Like, and if we're going to have the cost reduced to 1, and terraforming should, I guess, just draw 1. Like, let's just change it all together. I guess maybe that's why they went that way.
And they get like 4 arcologies. Oh yeah.
You can do some fun with it.
Some
not too much fun, but just enough.
Just enough.
Yeah, like 2 Mount Pharaohs, double the Astartes.
At the very least, you can have a couple bunkers, you know, if at the worst goes to worst, or you get a couple of underground forts.
Can it make barricades?
Yeah. Not barricades, but bunkers.
Fuck, there's still no reason for barricades to be there.
You choose the structure.
I'm writing them an email.
Only an Imperial Army structure, though, which is, again, just interesting.
It's limited. I have direct access to Mr. Everguild now, and he can't escape me. I'm going to ask. I have to.
Because terraform would be interesting if they just made it where it duplicated any structure, not just Imperial Army structure, but
maybe choose a faction or something.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting. Like just playing like,
well, because you could get corrupted ecology, or you could get the embers,
monuments of corn.
Yeah,
monuments of corn. Something.
I don't know about giving them faction structures, but yeah. Have we talked about Astral Incursion?
We just mentioned it, but we haven't actually talked about it.
I've never seen it used.
Really?
Only because, again, I usually just play practice mode.
Okay, that's fair. I've even seen in practice, because I like to test some decks out in there, and I hated running into fucking Astral Incursion, Rubio.
Or Sharokin, or who knows what. So, my big problem with Astral was always, it's a second copy of your 5 energy drop.
Mm-hmm.
You drew that instead of Targost. Baba Booey, you got Targost. Draw that instead of Brond, you got Brond. Anything that was you instead of Scaramanga, you got Scaramanga. Instead of Captain Vargas, now you have Captain Vargas. Now it's no longer just that, but it still has the problem of setting up your 7-drop or worse with Rubio. It just comes out a turn later, which would be a problem if Rubio and Sharokin and them didn't still have the setup. With the extremely pushed 3/3 that Rubio has and the 4/3, whereas Sharokin can just hide up to that point. So it still has the problem of you don't have to build around it. It's not just draw some random troop. You still get the choice.
Mm-hmm.
So you can consistently still pull your Arvidas and your Captain Chirons. It's a turn slower, but really that doesn't affect it too much.
It did deserve to be slowed down a bit.
It did.
Yeah, definitely.
But it might not be enough.
Yeah, turning a 9 energy unit into like a 4 or 5 energy unit, that's kind of scary.
It's still the setup card, which is what it needed to be, not just draw a troop for 5 and play it for 5.
Right.
For free.
Yeah.
But we had enough of that with Desperate Defense, right? Like we can do without cards like that.
We can, but that doesn't mean Everguild will respect our pleas.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I won't say I want to. I mean, if we were to see more of these types of notes hit in the next wave, and we were to see cards like, I mean, this hits a lot of like Legion draw, but there's a lot of cards that draw for Legions that don't have conditionals that could be impacted here. We could see other stuff in here that has like, you know, like lower the cost, like Outraged Noble or the Chaos. Not the Mechanicum troop that lowers the cost of Chaos troop that you play the next turn. Like those things don't get played a whole lot, but maybe they could get tied into options for people who still want to play in that style of cost reduction. I think there's a lot of room here. I mean, this is only, as far as factions go, it starts on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 factions of like the 30, not counting the neutrals. So there's still a lot of factions that haven't had any changes, but are still certainly impacted by these changes because of what happened to the neutral cards. So like I said, I feel like we're going to see more to come. But overall impressions of this patch, I feel like this is a great patch for the start of the year. I think this is not just a change for the pace of the game, but I think this kind of sets up the court. I'd like to see them continue to follow in this footstep, in this mold with other patches. Doesn't have to be radically significant, doesn't have to have like 50 cards in it, but if they continue with the design following the same concepts, I think we could have a really improved feeling of playing the game. And then just hope that at some point they get to maybe minimize the RNG elements. That would be my big take. But overall, patches, take on the patch, how do you guys rate it out of 1 to 10? We'll start with Axel.
I want to say a 9. It's like, I like everything in here. The Argo one's a bit iffy on, but everything else, I can't find any downsides. Like, Drilling Sight's a bit nutty right now, but they deserved, like, Restore was really annoying, so I can live with an extra ramp. Targoth's turn 1, though, is hell. If you have seen it before, it's possible.
I've had it played against me, yes. I might be the only person who's seen it, but it happened to me, and I hate that it did.
You deserve it.
Shush. How about you, Freezer?
So it's kind of like 2 segments, really. The neutrals is really where all the patch was, and that's an easy 8 out of 10. They did pretty much everything right. Could have done it a little bit better. Great. But the other part of the patch, which is the Astartes factions, I'm just really disappointed that they still have not done a lot with the World Eaters. So to me, I'd probably just give that like a 5 out of 10. Just because I really want to see World Eaters get a more drastic change than just Drieger's ability.
Well, the problem is we can't buff him without first addressing the Karn and the...
No, not just buffing him, just the World Eater troops in general. Like, the one spell that they have, the Throne of Skulls...
No, but that's the thing, like I'm saying. We can't ever do that.
They already have a good enough win rate. We have to nerf something before we can buff something. It's just, don't add more fuel to the fire.
But the issue is that their win rate is always just one Warlord face smashing.
That's why we're saying we gotta nerf that Warlord.
Yes.
And the Warlord's fine. I'm just saying they need to buff the troops. Because I honestly don't like seeing that where it's just one Warlord who just has 30 tactics. And that's all he's doing is just spamming the spells over and over again. I'd rather see it where it's like, if you go 30 tactics, you're literally going to be helpless to Phoenix Guard or something that's going to just face smash you.
Which is exactly why we're going to bring Karn out back when I eventually take over Everguild. Inevitably. It's bound to happen. I'm sorry, Mr. Everguild, but I'm coming for you.
What about you, Juan?
Overall, this was very unexpected. I was not expecting like Tidio, Abandoned, Supplies, all of that. I didn't see it coming from a mile away, but I can't say I'm against it. I don't think like Tidio maybe needed it, but the rest of them definitely.
I can't play with Tidio right after Ghost Legionary anymore, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah, counterattack.
That's true.
It's gone now. Sad.
They killed something that deserved to live.
This was a good patch.
Yeah, definitely good patch. I would rate it overall. I'd rate it as an 8, only for... like the mention of the Draeger, as well as Argyltal. And then for me personally, don't get me wrong, I think that this is a really positive change with Drilling Sight. Drilling Sight was a staple in so many decks, and now it's not in many decks. And it certainly is useful. It's almost a dead card at the end game. Whereas before, at the end game is when it shined the most. Yeah. But now Drilling Sight,
it's a slightly different staple.
It's kind of the other way around. The problem with that is a big thing with Drilling Sight in many of the decks that I used it in was it was a way to play and then play an ability on curve with like a Draeger or some other guy who like Bolvi, and it was not a huge tool, but it was a very useful tool, and now they don't have that in the same way. So it's for the best, and I'm certainly not going to complain about it, but I do feel like that felt like, darn, So now where is the Where is the extra little kicker for decks like that? Decks that really are at a slower pace. Like with this game, this patch is certainly aimed to scale back the pace of the game. Awesome. We still need to see a little bit more of that, I think, in other areas, or ways to give warlords who are already super slow that little nudge to kind of bring them almost at the same speed. Some of them certainly should be slow for a reason, because once they get going, they just you're gonna feel it. You're gonna be sad. But right now, some of those you're not seeing play at all because they were too slow. And with this scaling them back, they're still too slow because they lost a couple pieces that were helping them get to the same level. So it's not bad. I'd say 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this pack. I was surprised as well. When I was going through, I'm like, okay, really? Sons of Horus. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, really? All right. And then some of the stuff like, okay, salamanders, that's good. That makes sense. Then I got to neutrals. I was like, what? Wow, that's big, and that really is the feeling, I think, generally, from what I've seen from folks in the community this week, where it was just like dealing with it. Like, I have to go make some revisions to all my decks now.
Yeah, I like that. Just don't make all the decks the same thing. Everyone running supply lines to do something this, or bandit supplies just being a free drop in every deck.
Yes.
Oh man, that's one of the funniest things I heard from people after the patch is, man, all my decks, I gotta change my decks. Yeah, it means it was a good patch.
That's
Things
exactly
have to
right.
be changed.
Yeah, we need at least like 4 or 5
Yeah, I don't have
cards.
these issues. I don't have these issues because I'm a World Eater player who only plays troops, so every patch is a change in my deck.
I mean, that'll do it. I have to respect the ask, but I gotta ask why.
Just play like Shabrandan or Erlin and only go troops, and trust me, you'll have to change your deck every damn day.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
still
gotta
use
change
Butcher
100.
Nails.
I only have gotten 3 decks updated, so there's 122 more decks I've got to update. We'll get there. That's my goal. That's my goal for 2022, is to update all 125 decks.
So they changed Quinzah's ability, but did they change Hibu Khan?
No.
No, he's still the same, but he's kind of just existed, so I'm just going to let him keep doing that.
He's still, believe it or not, Hibu's lethal range is also 7. Like, generally, aside from Jagatai Khan, who he gets strong at 8, but the White Scar lethal range starts at 7. At that point, if they've been hitting you hard up until that point at 7 energy, they should be able to finish you off. Just with...
And they will.
Well, they would if they had old drilling site, but now they don't. So
you make a point.
You might have 1 extra turn longer, and that's sometimes all you need.
Yep.
Yeah, because his
One turn of
ability that he has is Magyar Mazin gives him 2 extra attack to whatever unit he attaches it on.
Yeah,
It's pretty nice.
Still don't think that card needed a nerf. But
No,
GG,
it was.
you do
They
you.
took the nerf out of event, I think, feedback, which is unfortunate. 2 for 2 was fair.
you can never trust event.
No,
feedback.
it was 3 for +2/+1. That's what it used to
Did it increase the health? I don't remember increasing health.
No, it was
Yeah,
3
it
and
used to
0.
increase the health.
Oh, okay. Well, still, I'll take it. If you're playing Hibu Khan, you know that you don't want to leave stuff on the board because he can even turn a Melgator into some extra damage.
Yeah. But the problem with White Scars is, I don't know if you guys done this, but accidentally sent it back to hand with the card attached to it.
Then it's gone.
And then the card's tossed in the void.
That's it. I do like the fact that they represented the Sagir Maizan in the game. I would have liked to have seen it done in a slightly different way, but at least it was nice to kind of see that story represented in the game, because it's kind of really, if you look at all the legions, like most of them in some shape or form, all the traitor legions definitely went through that purge, or that conflict of morale, or morals, I should say. The White Scars probably more so than any loyalist legion, where they literally had some of their guys were like, no, we're gonna join the traitors. Like, we're supposed to be joining Horus, and then the Primarch is like, what?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, I just got back to ship. Say what? Who had this meeting without me? And that's just an interesting story. And then obviously the fallout of that, because then even then after that, they're like, okay, we messed up, our bad. Like we're repenting, and even then we'll never be forgiven, for these crimes. Like that just is a really cool concept because you don't see that in any other faction.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have one representation of it in game. Because every faction had like bands, like little squads that went traitor, and they're the Third Covenant in game.
Right.
And that's the only reason Orphans of War aren't labeled as a Loyalist Legion, but unaligned is because of those bastards and Kareen.
Well, I think
those are the only two people who aren't pro-Imperium.
Are you sure? Don't they have an Iron Warrior, Forge Father?
Iron Man?
They have the Forge Father working for the Loyalists.
Oh, I thought he was a Black Shield. I didn't know he was a Loyalist.
Well, he was, but he only ever did anything for the Loyalists.
He's like, I'm freelance, but just for good guys.
I'm freelance, but I ain't working for them traitors.
He's like, listen, I'll do anything for anybody except for those guys over there, which is half of the side. So
I do question why Defenders of Caliban are not loyalists.
The Imperial system is you're either with us or against us. So, if anything, they should be traitors.
Well, the thing is, too, with the Defenders of Caliban, some of them are actually loyal, but...
No, the majority of them are loyal. Except for maybe... Not like even us.
I would say the high command also was not... The high command was loyal to Caliban. That was the whole thing. Like, they were loyal to Caliban, and at some point during the recruiting, they went from loyal to the Imperium to loyal to Caliban. And that really was their whole thing. Like, Caliban... It's good, but they didn't realize that. Yeah, you can't sit this one out. Like you got to pick a side.
Yeah,
not picking a side is picking a side.
And a lot of name characters they chose in game are actually just full on loyalists and had no real care for Caliban. So it's funny that they picked them.
Well, I would say,
I'm not surprised they did that.
Are you talking like
was
character
Galadan
troops
loyalist?
Or character warlords? Because Astalin certainly was not. Oh, troop. Okay,
troops. So the warlords are all
except for Cypher. I would argue Cypher was the only loyalist.
Well, we do have two ciphers as warlords, which I find entertaining.
That is true.
They never trusted me.
Can you blame them? Can they be blamed, truly?
Well, so I mean that overall is the patch notes. Not too bad. Not a bad way to kick off the year. So I mean, kind of going through that. Oh, go ahead.
What are other changes you guys are looking forward to so far?
Like looking forward to?
Yeah.
Karn dead and buried. Raven Guard not cracked. The meta has now moved from Mongolian bikemen to birds, and I don't like it. Don't like it one bit.
I would say if I had to look forward to something this year, as far as the game itself, I'd like to see more of the I don't want to see super heavy troop builds, because we had the Bolvi and the Tarsa, and those were too strong. But I think we can get to a medium ground in there where you can still run tactics, you can still run troops, but you don't have to run all or none. And, I'd like to see in the next patch or two, if they're keeping up with that, it's like I'd like to see a lot of the neutral damage dialed back, because I think that's the other factor that ties into some of the speed of some of these builds and other builds out there. Is like, oh yeah. Why wouldn't I? Mortar Strike, sure. 4 for 5. Okay, cool. Defensive satellites.
Bombardment meta went?
Yeah, if we rolled that back just a little bit, I think that would help a lot too. And actually have the majority of damage come from either stuff that you play on board or stuff that's on board that's enhanced by what you have in hand. Like a good balance, because sometimes why play a 2-attack troop if you've got Artillery Strike, which can actually deal 6 damage?
I'm mostly looking forward to just more diverse neutrals, because they now have that diversity between regular Imperial Army and Solar Auxilia.
Yeah.
But I would like to see more of that, where it's like Cybernetics department or Gene Warriors, because they did have these. The Imperial Army was not very uniform. They were just kind of whatever you were. So a lot of Gene Warriors, a lot of cybernetic dudes. Very interesting stuff to look into if they decide to keep dividing the neutrals.
Sort of waiting on Dark Mechanicum.
We don't have Thunder Warriors either, right?
There is no mention of them anywhere, and they're not even on the tabletop. So if we ever get them, there's mention of them.
I don't need them as a faction, but if they were a neutral 1 or 2, because they were there.
Yeah. They existed. Very few of them. So maybe
that could be.
I don't even know how you would balance them out. Jesus.
Well, I mean, they're not that. They're weaker than a Custode. Like, Custodes are balanced. They can exist.
Start with an Ogren, and then give it like some punch of like a Astartes.
Yeah. Really, that's all a Thunder Warrior is, an Ogren in Astartes armor. So, you can prove me wrong, folks at home, but I refuse to believe it.
I guess they could do it where it's kind of like some of the other units where the longer they're in the battlefield, the more they take damage. Just because they did degenerate pretty badly. Especially by that point.
Their degeneration isn't that bad. Like, there are some that survived long after the heresy. Just by replacing their parts every couple decades.
To live in a world where you just like replace your part. You're like, yeah, you know what? This foot. Don't like it.
New foot. I think they don't have to do any hoopstad like Thunder Warriors. They just really need Games Workshop's permission. Because as with everything, Games Workshop has to give them the A-OK before they can add a card.
I think that's probably definitely something that is on their list that they'd like to put on there, but it is a GW approval needed.
The only issue if they do Dark Mechanicum, as the other guy was saying, is that GW doesn't even. The only issue is that GW still hasn't released any Dark Mechanicum tabletop, so I don't think they probably would.
Well, I mean, this is 30K we're talking about, and they didn't necessarily release an entire difference between Cultists and Chaos Cultists normally. So they could just add a Dark Mechanicum tag onto them. Because, I mean, look at Cultists. Davenite Cultists exist. Normal Cultists exist. But none of them have the Cultist trait. It's just a word they add. All it would take is... I'm thinking of all the... there's so many Mechanicum troops that are Dark Mechanicum that would be kind of just annoying. You just have to add the word. Put some synergy between them.
A lot of the Mechanicus dudes are actually traitors.
Well, the Mechanicum served their own interests, which made them end up traitors, because they wanted more technology. It's just how they do.
Yeah.
Sovereign Mars for a sovereign world.
Listen, when you have access to giant deaf churches, you kind of have the ability to say, you know what? I do not vibe with the Imperium. Do whatever you want.
How about you, Juan?
They've done it before.
I am curious if they're going to release more Titan Warlords.
Yeah.
Oh, Juan, what are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to?
The patch-wise, yeah.
Buffs to maybe some other legions that have been left behind. Say, Custodians. World Eaters are in a fine spot. They just need changes. They maybe don't need buffs. But Custodians, some legions who haven't been competitive in a long time. Iron Warriors could use some maybe more changes or something.
Just to clarify,
this patch,
we're talking about the Legio Custodes, not a bunch of janitors, right?
To be fair,
yes.
Is he wrong?
Well, there's a big difference between like awesome bodyguards and guys who mop the floor. Although they do mop the floor with you.
they do.
That's the intent. Give me some eyes of the what are they called? Eyes of the Custodes. Like, what are their spy units called? Which happens when a Custodian gets slightly slower, so he just quits.
So he goes into a dreadnought.
Oh no!
No.
He basically becomes like a
basically like the Sigilant, the Inquisitors and stuff. Yeah.
If they feel like they've gotten weaker, which usually means, oh no, I can no longer go under 0.1 seconds. I'm now 0.15 seconds.
He's like,
I guess I gotta retire.
I noticed there's a fraction of a second on my reflexes. I better retire right now. I'm not good.
It's actually funny you guys say that, because there was a Reddit post where someone's like, if you're a Dark Eldar, how would you get a Custodes? And I said, most likely, just destroy a spy network. It's probably got Custodes leading it.
Well, that's the thing about their spy network, is it's God tier. Because they have the access to every single thing in the Imperium for it. But we'll do it for you.
Easy money.
Well, when you're not playing Legions, what do you guys do? What have you been up to? Axel, how about you?
Me, I still do my DM. Recently, I don't know how I came across it, but I'm now a main core. So that's cool. I just fell into this position, so this is my home, I guess. How's it going, folks?
Right.
Yeah, I got my D&D thing. I've recently ran Lancer for the first time. Lancer's a very fun role set. It's like a role-playing version of 40K tabletop, but with mechs.
Oh, okay.
Mechs?
Yeah, it's pretty great. The party learned the hard way that trees can only provide so much cover from automatic fire.
So, like, you're playing as the Titans, or...?
No, it's not. It plays like 40K. It's not 40K, though.
Oh, okay.
So you're using mechs for combat and such. It's very interesting how everything works, HP and all that. one of the party members took his engine and kind of tried to overcharge it to get faster and almost exploded. Very entertaining.
Yeah, that's how that works.
When in doubt, turn yourself into a nuke. It usually works.
Hey, that's what happened in Armageddon. Took out a bunch of Orc Titans. Worked.
Hey, it works. But yeah, no, it's been fun.
All right. How
That's
about you,
me lately.
Fraser? What have you been up to?
Lately, I've been writing a novel, and it's actually gotten a lot of good praise. I'm writing the rest of chapter 3, but it's just naval stuff because I like naval. I'm huge into that time period, piracy and all that.
It's a neat one.
So is it like historical based?
No, it's total fiction.
Ah, okay.
So not like fiction, it's actually like science fiction. No fantasy element. So you'll have like one faction on this island called the Jewel. Hint, Jewel means energy. And that's what they do. They use like electricity in everything. Like instead of having a flintlock gun, they instead have a copper pistol that shoots lightning. And then that's just one of the many factions I'm adding in there. But I do like the idea of it. Like when they shoot a cannonball, it's electricity is like literally arcing off of it. So as it's spinning through your boat, your crewmen are getting vaporized by the damn lightning. I like it.
All right. So you're on chapter 3. You're working on that?
Yeah, it's just it's a little difficult because of the corona and all that stuff.
Kind of slow down those things.
That does slow down things for many a folk.
Because I've never peed this much in my life because my wife's got me on a water drinking spree where usually I just drink soda. So now that I'm on a water drinking spree, my bladder's like, all right, time to be in the bathroom. This is going to be a new bed for the night.
Damn.
How about you, Juan? What you been up to?
This Christmas break has been fairly boring. I tried going for War Master, failed at that. Now I'm just waiting for school to start.
And you got the Bovid.
Yes, I did. It's not as bad as you think it is, but I'm still a little bedridden.
Man's got the boof.
Yes.
Poor bud. I haven't gotten it yet, but I feel like I may as well eventually.
I don't know how I got it. I've been isolated, but
that's your first mistake, thinking you're immune. I'm hiding from it.
I was the main character, okay? I don't know how I got it. Unless this is my retribution arc.
God damn it.
That was kind of like the issue was that there's still debate scientifically if it's airborne or droplet. And the issue is I keep telling people is that if it's airborne, that means that your air conditioner needs to be scrubbed and cleaned. And if you live in an apartment, you're doubly screwed.
Yeah. I don't follow it much anymore. I'm just double vaccinated and I live in the woods, so I'm not worried about it. I just kind of phased it out of my life. I put on my mask and I live with it. God, I hate 2020 in 2021. In 2022.
It's already 2022. How do we...
Yeah. I said 2021 thinking we were still 2021. I totally forgot.
No, the 2020. I mean, this will be an interesting decade for sure. So we'll see how it goes.
It's a bad decade, Scuff. I want to go home.
Yeah. Well,
send me back.
Let's talk about plugs. You guys got anything you'd like to plug?
I'll do the usual. My boy Dorn Stash. He was on the last podcast. He didn't drink as much as me. He did still drink, but he's a coward. That's Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. He does the art. He does good art. He drew my crab. My crab is gorgeous. Baba Booey.
How about you, Freezer? One.
What do you want? What do you want to plug?
Well, just thanks for having me on.
Oh,
okay.
That's what plugging stuff.
I'm just happy. I'm just happy my subscribers keep supporting me, and then I meet guys like you guys who want to just chill and talk.
You want to shout out your you want to shout out your YouTube channel then? That's always an option.
Oh, my YouTube channel is just called The Freezer 700.
There you go.
No space.
All right.
And you do
not bad.
lore, 40k lore?
Not just 40k. It's also Kingdom Under Fire and Legacy of Kain.
Oh wow, that's an old
Legacy.
It's a good series.
Yeah. Oh, Legacy Kain's old. Yeah.
I usually cover niche topics. I don't like covering large topics just because there's too much information there for someone to shift through. So I usually cover niche things. I mean, my favorite chapter is the Marines of Malevolent. So a very niche chapter that not many people have heard of. And that's usually what I do. So that's why I cover those topics, because I like talking about them.
There's some neat chapters if you go digging for them. The Minotaur Marines, Malevolent, Lisp, and Carcharodons are some of the lesser known but extremely violent groups.
I did like a whole playlist on the Ghoul Stars because I was just talking about that for a while.
That's fair. It's a good period for the Grimdark.
Oh yeah, I love the aliens that live there and stuff. Hive Jormungandr was very interesting talking about that too.
All right.
Quan, you got any plugs, my friend?
You got any plugs?
I'm afraid I don't. The people I usually plug have just fallen off the face of the earth. So that's it for me.
Buck, I don't know, Pirate? Yeah, Pirate, he drinks on his streams. I guess you
I
can
guess
check
I
out
could
him.
shout out Pirate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi.
Pirate. I love his streams because you don't know when he's going to pass out drunk, but you know it's right after he stops streaming.
Sometimes that's what hits the stop button. Is he just like hits the keyboard with his
Falls forward.
Yeah.
Boom. It's out.
It sounds great.
That guy's great.
All right.
Never stops drinking.
Well, I'm gonna plug deck slots. I've sent my calculated
Manifesto.
essay and thesis to Mr. Evergill explaining the numbers needed following the release of the upcoming warlords that'll be added to the game. And that's it. I guess I've got a couple of things like I'll mention here for anybody who's made it through this long to get to this point in the episode. The Decklist Contest is continuing. That has deadlines for January. The December-January Decklist Contest is January 25th, and you just have to submit a decklist matching the theme of Astartes. That's the theme for this first one. It's very broad. I've gotten almost 20 submissions so far, which is really good for a 2-month period. I'm trying to get back into it. Also, I'm going to be doing a Steam stream again. I'm not sure if I'm going to have any promo codes to give away yet, but we've got the Steam stream that's happening on January 22nd. So if you have Steam and you want to just hop on, chat, watch me play, watch me fix some decks, do whatever the game is at, I'll probably do that for a couple hours. And if you are interested in casual play, we have Bar Night Legions. The tournament takes place the 16th, so that is a week from today. So if you're listening to this episode, which will air on the 13th, you've got 3 days to prepare for Bar Night Legions, and that is a special format this time around. We're doing Black and Tan, which is all epics and commons only.
Matchy Black and Tan.
And every card in your deck must be 2 copies. So that should be very fun. We've got, I think, about 5 or 6 people signed up for that already. And that is taking place again on the 16th at 7:30 p.m. U.S. Central Time. So hopefully we get another good turnout. We had, I think, 9 players show up at the last one, and that was really fun. We went the distance. A couple new guys, too, so that was really great. Hopefully we see some more of that. And that is it for me.
So, question about the streaming on Steam. How do you look up your channel then when you're live streaming? Steam.
On Steam, that's a good question because I'm not a massive streamer, so that's why I use Steam, because I find
because I used YouTube and I don't really get that many traction, but with Steam I don't even see an option to search for you.
No, if you're on Steam, you'll have to either friend request me, Scuff D, or if you just go to the game's main page, the Horus Heresy Legions main page, they should, when I'm streaming, they should have my stream shown as a featured stream, and then you can just click on it and then watch it from there, like on the community hub. But if I'm not streaming, then there's nothing showing up. Like, you won't be able to find it. But which is weird. Yeah, if you friended me in Steam, if you friended me in Steam, then I think you get a notification when I'm playing or when I'm streaming or something like that too. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, the YouTube stream, like, I've not only had inconsistent things, like I've had technical issues where it cuts out mid through or like right when I get started, and it's enough problems. Whereas like Steam, I just hit stream, I share it, and then their service basically maintains it,
does the work,
and I haven't had any problems the 2 or 3 times I've had to use that. So that's why I'm continuing to use it, because I'm just not tech savvy enough, nor do I have the time to want to even look into Twitch or anything like that.
Yeah, because I'm not tech savvy either. That's why I was like, wait, you stream on Steam? How do you even search that?
Yeah, just so I would say, so you go to the Horus Heresy Legions community hub page on the game, and then when there is a broadcast taking place, it should be featured there.
Juan, we're young. We're hip with the kids. We know how this tech works. I didn't know you could stream on Steam.
I didn't know you could stream on Steam.
No, we had no clue.
You guys didn't know?
No. Like, this is the first time hearing about it.
Well,
I knew you could stream on Steam only because I kept exiting those damn pop-ups because I just didn't care to look at some of the people on like other games I was looking at.
well, I believe with the Steam streams, I believe the game, I could be wrong because this is the only one I've done, but like Everguild notified me that they would put me as a featured so that when I streamed it would be put up on their hub. I don't know if you can just stream on every game and it goes live or not, but I know if you go into your options in your settings, you can just have like my broadcasting. I currently have it disabled, but you can just have it to friends can request to watch my games, friends can watch my games, or anyone can watch my games, and then that just kind of sends it out there. So whatever you're playing. So I don't know if that would go to every hub for every game that you're playing, but that's how I do it. So now you know. You learned something.
No, we learned something new.
And knowing is half the battle.
God damn it.
G.I. Joe.
Oh, man, the G.I. Joe edits are still classic internet.
Some good stuff. All right. Well, thank you guys for being available. Thank you, Freezer 700, for joining us this week. Juan for hopping on and being able to discuss for a couple hours how we felt about the patch and what 2022 is looking like.
It's hell.
I don't know. It's positive. It's all up. It's all up from here.
Positive is a key word there, isn't it?
That's right.
Defense satellites have become a lot more
Party hard.
Party hard.
All right, that's it for me. Bye.
It ends here.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
I can't help but appreciate your talents.
It was inspiring.
I need some mood.